Hi, my name is Tammy Burns, and I am a parent of a young man with autism. He is 19 years old and was diagnosed with autism when he was 18 months. It's been quite a journey, and through that whole process of learning all about autism and who he is and what that means for not just him but other individuals in our family, um, I've taken on a role at the Autism Society Central Virginia, and I'm the outreach and program director there. And so I've spent days and years getting to know lots of individuals with autism and their families. So I bring that to you today as we talk about summer in my community and what that might look like for individuals with autism as we here are approaching spring, and not too much longer it's going to be summer. And so we're going to look at, what does that mean for my child with autism, whether they be a little guy or an adult, and how we can view our summers and what kind of things that we can find to fill our days. So, um, as I said, summer with autism is sometimes a unique thing. Summer struggles, and at least in my family, came about because, first of all, there's no school. So, no school means there's a whole lot of open time during the day that was filled with getting on the bus and going to school for 6 hours, 6.5 hours, getting back on the bus and coming home. And all that time is now open. There's no set schedule. School has a very set schedule. You go to lunch at a certain time, you go to recess at a certain time, you go to resource at a certain time, you have math, you have English, all of that is very set. And suddenly you're in summer and there's no school, and the schedule is not set like it was for individuals with autism. That makes a big difference. For my son, it made a huge difference. He is a very scheduled individual that he does for himself, and the lack of schedule kind of brings all kinds of new behaviors and um, issues for our family. And also, just summer brings about longer days. I mean, there's more sunlight, and so you've got, instead of an 8-hour, 12-hour, you're talking about the sun is up from 6 o'clock in the morning until 9 o'clock at night. So the days just feel a lot longer. So all of these things put together kind of create a really unique summer struggle for those of us in the autism world. So what that means for us, as I kind of touched on, is how do we fill that time? What do we do with all of those hours that are there and there's no school and there's no schedule? How do we do that for the almost 3 months? I think it's depending on your school system, 10 to 12 weeks of summertime. How do you fill that time? And then how do you not just fill it, but how do you find things that might interest your child? And I know for my own son, that's a huge question because he has very few interest, and then the lack of communication skills to be able to share that with us as to what those interests are. So how do we find things that might interest our child, and where do we find those activities in our community? And so, as I said, I'm going to start sharing with you some of the ways to find those things in your community, and follow up in April with another webinar on actually how to connect your child to these interests and things. So make sure to check that one out as well. So how do you find those things in your community? I always tell families, and for our own self, I've always said, start with your Parks and Rec. Parks and Rec is different across the state, but it's most counties or a group of counties will share sometimes, if it's a small county, a Parks and Rec department. And typically they fall under the county government. Here in Central Virginia, that's the way it falls under the county government. And it's a huge undertaking for each county, and they provide what they call parks and recreation. And they provide activities. I was just looking through, as I was preparing for this, I looked through the booklets for the local counties that surround here in Richmond, and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of activities. And the activities are for any age, so for young children all the way through seniors. They have activities that are out there, and the activities are this enormous variety of things. I couldn't believe, I knew there was a variety, and hadn't looked at it in a while, but I could not believe some of the variety that I actually saw, and I actually wrote this down because I thought nobody's going to believe me when I say some of these things. So I'm just going to tell you some of the things that I found in one county in their parks and rec. So they had recreation leagues, so recreation league sports, so cheerleading, bowling, tennis, gymnastics, sailing, all of the things that you would expect and then some. They had camps. They had camps that were daytime camps. They had camps that were nighttime, spend the night for a week camp. They had camps that stayed in caves. They had just an enormous amount of camps opportunities. They had activities, like they had a film night where they had brought in food trucks, and you come and watch a movie outside, and there's food trucks, and you bring your own chair and blanket and that sort of thing. Symphony visits, Easter egg hunts, card and game groups, potlucks, karate, belly dancing, kickboxing. They had classes, things like estate planning, but then things like wildfire safety, train track safety, which I thought, wow, that would interest a lot of the people I know with autism, just the train part of it itself. Computer basics, building a butterfly habitat, using credit cards wisely. I mean, who can't benefit from that, or your child with autism as they're growing into an adult to learn from those things. Making natural body soaps, drawing cartoons, CPR, Lego building classes. And then they had tours, so they were going on tours of historical places or museums or, hiking tours, paddling tours, moonlight bike rides, campfires, archery, yoga, paper making, backyard birding, reptile care, horseback riding, tree climbing, mommy and me overnights, kayaking not just on rivers and lakes, but kayaking in a swimming pool. Walking, golf, badminton, hula, culinary, theater, I could go on. And just the enormous range of activities that, and they were open to an enormous age group of just the opportunities that are out there through Parks and Rec in one county. Parks and Rec are very low cost in general. They also have scholarship opportunities, and a lot of their things are actually free. I was surprised when I was looking through how many of the activities were actually free, and all you had to do was sign up. Parks and Rec are open to any ability, so they don't say you're required to have this sort of skill or this to be a part of that. And then one of the ways they help do that here in our local area, and I think this is expanding as I'm talking to people across the state, is they have something called an inclusion coach. And an inclusion, if your county or your Parks and Rec has an inclusion coach, what that means is you call and you say, my child or my adult son or my adult daughter wants to participate in X activity, in the overnight camp, in the belly dancing, whatever it might be, and they're going to need some support. And so the county provides, at no cost to the family, an inclusion coach. And that inclusion coach is there to help support your child, sometimes two. Sometimes it's a 2-on-1, depending on the need, but they support for free that person so that they can participate in the activity of their choice. So definitely check out what might be available in Parks and Rec in your area. Another thing to check out are community centers and associations. The YMCA, just like Parks and Rec, the YMCA has an enormous array of activities and camps, a lot of daytime camps, but they will do some evening and overnights. They have tons of classes, and then of course they have the swimming and the sports pieces as well. And again, they are open to all. The YMCA is very clear in their programming that they are open to all individuals. Jewish community centers, and it could be any type of community center there. I just happen to know here in Richmond we have a very active Jewish community center who has some of the best summer camps around, and they even have some that are geared toward individuals with autism, and then they have their camps that are just geared for anyone of all ages, and anyone can sign up to be a part of that. So those are a couple of places. They act a lot alike in terms of what they offer and what they have, but definitely places to check out. And then neighborhood community programs. So if you live in a neighborhood that has a community association, or you live close to a neighborhood that has a community association, they often offer lots of classes through the summer, just for everyone. So I know in my neighborhood, for example, there's swim team and there's swim lessons, but there's also, they do a camp that's 9 a.m. to 2 p.m., 3 p.m. every day that has some swim time and some type of activity and a movie time and just a time for kids to be doing something outside of the home. And all of my kids participated in our neighborhood camp in the summer, just to give them some structure within their day as well. So check out what neighborhoods, not just your neighborhood, but what other neighborhoods around might offer as well. And of course, there's school options. And, we talked about school being out, but school does have summer options as well. There's summer school educational classes that are out there. So your child needs to work on just general ed stuff. There's special ed summer classes. There's regular ed summer classes. There's, specific to a subject like English and math. And then there's just an overall, continue my education type summer school class. So those are always options. But summer school also offers recreational options. So there's summer school music and summer school PE and art and theater and cooking and computer. Lots of those kind of options as well. And the thing to know about those summer school options specifically, and actually all of these options, is if it is something that's required for your child to be able to benefit from the education that the school is giving them. And if they qualify, there's a great thing to look up if you don't know extended school year services, but check that out. The Virginia Department of Ed has a great booklet to explain what extended school year services are, and they don't just mean summer school, but they could mean summer school. So if your child qualifies for extended school year services, these things can be paid for because it's part of their IEP. So make sure you talk to your school about those things and what options might be available. And then if there are private schools in your area, a lot of the private schools offer various summer options. And again, they range from educational to all kinds of interest types, cooking and art, and I've seen just about anything, archery and fencing, and just a huge variety of options that private summer schools will offer. And if it's a private special ed kind of school, they'll offer things differently, but there's also just general private schools that are offering a variety of options for families to look into and see if it works for your family. And then in your community, you're going to see just an enormous amount of things that are offered in the summer if you start looking around. So faith organizations are one of those places that will offer community programs. You'll see things from all kinds of summer camps again to vacation Bible schools to movie days, those kind of things that different faith organizations will organize in the summer for, and almost always those things are free or very, very low cost if there's a cost associated with them. If you have a zoo in your area, the zoo does classes in the summer on animal care and seeing how they care for the rhinoceros or whatever it might be, and a class for doing those kind of things, as well as offer some camp type situations at some zoos. Gardens like a botanical garden or just working in a garden that you've established, or a community garden, those can offer great activities for children with autism in the summer. And museums, we have several museums in our area, but most museums will have a variety of summer options. They realize that the children are out of school, and so they'll offer things specifically in the school age range, but they also will offer evening options for adults. So museums are also a great place to dig into, look at their website, see what they may be offering. Symphonies and theaters, the same sort of thing. They know again that there's people trying to fill their days, and so they will have all sorts of variety of things, from special performances to, and a lot of those are open and very willing for kids of all abilities to participate because they're expecting it to be children. So make sure you look at those. Movies. We couldn't get by when my son was in elementary school without the movies. He loves movies, and in the summer, I know Regal Theater and probably the others as well run $1 movies in the summer. And so you can go to the movie and see, they're not the newest movies, but they're the ones my son actually loved. And you could see movies for $1 and get popcorn and a drink for another $1. And it was a great way to spend a couple of hours. And we just knew to schedule on Wednesdays that we were going to the $1 movie. It's great, especially also when there's rainy days and those sort of things. And then, believe it or not, restaurants will run some things in the summer. Some of the restaurants will do come in and learn about our restaurant type events, but they also, the restaurants like Chuck E. Cheese and Dave and Buster's and those kind of restaurants that are tied to the ones that are tied to movie theaters and stuff will run specials in the summer for summertime activities. And so if you find those out, you can put those in your plans um, to kind of fill in some of that space in the summer as well. Another thing you and your child can do or your adult can do is volunteer. The community is full of volunteer opportunities. Everybody's community is full of those things that can be done, and it's just finding out how to connect to those in your community. Sometimes there's an online place, like here in Richmond and the surrounding areas, there's a website, Give Richmond, and sorry, just slipped my head, but there's volunteer websites that you can go to and look for opportunities, and they're based on age and stuff, but you can also just start asking around and find what other people are volunteering and how they're doing that, and what you can do together, and you can plan those in your schedule as well to see, what on Tuesdays we're going to volunteer at the food bank to stock shelves, or whatever it might be that you can get in a regular routine to fill some of that time. No matter what you choose, and no matter which one of these things you say, oh, we're going to look into that, we might check out that for my child or my adult, you need to plan and plan early. The opportunities do fill quickly because it's not just the kids with autism that are trying to fill their days in the summer. It's all families that are looking to fill their days with these camps and these activities. So they will fill quickly. So start looking now and start looking at the variety of options and what you would like to do and start making those plans, especially if you're going to be looking for an inclusion coach in the Parks and Rec, or you're going to be looking for some financial support. You want to get in there early and get those things done. You want to, so you decide which things you're going to do and how you're going to work those. You want to plan your schedule and actually schedule. We would sit down and schedule out. We'd had a blank schedule from the end of June through all of August, and we would just write it on the calendar. This is happening this day and this is happening this day, so that I knew what was happening, but also so that my son would know what was happening. And that brought the anxiety level down for him, and he could see what was coming. Of course, things change, places close, or whatever might happen, but just in and of itself, having some sort of schedule alleviated the anxiety of what are we going to do now, as well as just that blank time that nobody really wanted to deal with. So plan it, schedule it, and share it with your individual that has autism. And then it is summer, and so do make sure to plan on your calendar for some downtime, not just for your child, but for you. You do need that downtime, whether it's today's the day we're going to read a book, we're going to go to the library and pick 2 books out, and we're going to spend 2 hours, everybody just looking at books in their room, or whatever it might be, but just make sure, whatever feels downtime to you, but make sure you just have some downtime as well. And you can schedule that. It doesn't mean it's not downtime if you schedule it, but make sure you do not plan too much so that you're living moment to moment and never have a chance to breathe and enjoy each other as well. So hopefully that has helped, and you're able to dig through some of these things in your own community and find a way to fill that time in the summer that is fun and also productive for you and your family. Thanks.